Before the mask, before the crown, before Wakanda, there was memory. Memory wrapped in flames, whispered by ancestors, hidden in African soil. You are not here by accident. You were summoned. To remember what the world tried to erase, to see what lies beneath the fiction, to hear the voices that still speak from the other side of the veil. Welcome to Africa, gods, where forgotten spirits rise and ancient truths return. If this stirs something inside you, stay, watch, listen. And when the story ends, remember to subscribe, not just for content, but for connection, not just for views, but to awaken what's been buried. The screen is dark. Then, slowly, a single ember glows. Ancestral drums begin, soft, steady. A whisper rides on the rhythm. A voice, old as earth, begins to speak. What if I told you the most powerful part of Black Panther wasn't fiction? We remember it well, the scene where T'Challa, newly crowned king, sips the heart-shaped herb and falls into a trance. Buried in sand, then lifted, soul first, into a glowing purple sky, under a great tree where black panthers rest on the branches like guardians. One leaps down. It becomes his father. Dead, yet not gone. A conversation begins, not of memory, but of spirit. To most, it was stunning cinematography, but to those who know, it was familiar. Because in many African traditions, the dead are not dead. They walk with us, speak to us, guide and guard us from beyond the veil. This realm of glowing light, ancestral presence, and spirit dialogue, it has a name, many names. In Igbo, it is Alamuo. In Yoruba, it is Orun Rere. To the Dagara, it is the place of return, where spirits watch the living with love and judgment. Marvel didn't invent the ancestral plane. Africa did. The baobab tree of wisdom, the purple twilight between night and day, the shape-shifting animal spirits, the visitation of a departed father to his son. These are not CGI marvels. They are sacred truths pulled from the oldest memories of the continent. And now, we begin our journey, not into fantasy, but into the real ancestral plane, the one our people have walked for thousands of years, the one we were told to forget, the one hidden behind masks, buried under scripture, but never lost. This is not Wakanda. This is Africa remembered. The veil is thin now. Let us step through it, together. When T'Challa knelt beneath the sands of Wakanda, it wasn't death that greeted him. It was memory made living. The screen faded into violet hues, and suddenly he stood in a vast savanna beneath a canopy of purple stars. The wind didn't howl, it whispered, and there, amidst the roots of an ancient tree lay the Watchers, black panthers resting in divine stillness. One of them stirred. It descended, not as beast, but as father. This was not heaven, this was not imagination, this was the ancestral plane. In Black Panther, Marvel gifted the world a vision born from our bones, an elegant fusion of African aesthetics and spiritual philosophy. But to those who have tasted the fire of African initiation, the ancestral plane was not cinematic fiction, it was recognition, something in our soul remembered. Every element was sacred: the purple sky, the twilight hour, the baobab tree rising like the spine of time. These were not set pieces, they were symbols. In Africa, purple is not just royalty, it is spiritual transformation, the moment between worlds, the place where spirits pass from one plane to the next. And the twilight hour, dawn and dusk, has long been considered the sacred threshold, when ancestors walk freely among the living. The great tree under which the panthers rest, that is no accident. It is the tree of consciousness, the axis mundi, the connection between sky and soil, between those who breathe and those who have become breath. In Yoruba, such trees are sacred shrines. In Igbo land, they are meeting places of the spirits. In ancient Kemet, They mirror the celestial tree upon which the goddess Nut stretched her starry body. And the panther, the black feline, it is more than a symbol of Wakandan might. In many African traditions, animals are avatars of divine presence. The leopard is royal, the lion, fierce. But the panther, the shadow cat, is both seen and unseen. It moves through the worlds like a spirit. It is protector, judge, and guide. But most sacred of all was the encounter. In the film, T'Challa speaks with his father, not in dream, not in memory, but in spirit. His father, though dead, still speaks, still guides, still corrects. This is the essence of ancestral communion, not worship, but relationship. We do not bow to ancestors as gods, we speak to them as family who have passed behind the curtain. This is why the scene touched hearts across the world, because deep within us all is the longing for that sacred conversation, for one more word with a mother now gone, a father now silent, a lineage half remembered. Black Panther gave us that moment, but our traditions gave it form. The filmmakers may not have named the ancestors, but Africa did. Long before cinema, long before scripts, this scene was a gift, a memory returned. But now, it is time to go deeper, beyond the screen, into the very real cosmologies that inspired this plane, the Igbo, the Yoruba, the Dagara, and beyond. Come closer, my lord. The real ancestral plane awaits.
In the beginning, the world of the Igbo was not split into two. There was no rigid line between the living and the dead. The world was one, a single breath, moving through flesh and shadow, birth and burial, voice and silence. Death was not an ending. It was a return, a crossing into the Alamuo, the land of the spirits. The Alamuo is not a ghostly void, nor is it a distant heaven. It is a realm parallel to ours, mirroring the physical but made of essence, not matter. A place where the ancestors, known as the Ndichie, live, watch, and wait. These spirits are not gone. They are present, walking alongside the clan in invisible robes, whispering in the rustle of leaves, speaking through dreams and divination. To the Igbo, the ancestors are not mythical. They are active participants in the affairs of the living. A man does not walk alone. His forefathers walk with him. A woman does not pray into the void. She prays to her foremothers, the matriarchs who hold her hand through the veil. Ancestors are protectors, intercessors, and judges. They bless and they punish. They remember names long forgotten, and they carry the lineage on their backs like sacred cloth. At the center of this cosmology is the belief in reciprocity. The living owe the ancestors memory, offerings, and moral conduct. And in return, the Ndichie offer protection, guidance, and spiritual power. Every act of injustice, every broken taboo, every forgotten burial has consequences, not just in this world, but in the Alamuo. Because to ignore the dead is to unravel the living. In village shrines, families keep ancestral altars, small clay structures, carved stones, or sacred earth. These are not decorations, they are doors, portals through which one speaks to the other side. Palm wine is poured, kola nuts broken, names invoked with reverence. And when the ritual is pure, the ancestors respond. Through signs, through dreams, through sudden knowing. No technology is needed. The connection is older than electricity. The Igbo understand that every family has its own spirit lineage. Your ancestors are not abstract, they are yours. You carry their blood, their wounds, their unfinished tasks. A child is born not just with eyes, but with memory. Some are said to be reincarnated elders, known as NWA Muo, spirit children who return to complete what was left undone. Their eyes are deep, their silence is heavy, their wisdom exceeds their years, and when death comes to the living, it is not feared as an abyss. It is a return to the clan, a journey home. The funeral, called Iko Ozu, is not simply mourning. It is a ritual of passage, helping the soul find its way into the Alamuo. If the rites are performed well, the spirit enters peacefully. If they are ignored, the dead may become restless, wandering between realms, causing misfortune, demanding attention through dreams and sickness. This is why in Igbo tradition, to live well is to die well, and to die well is to become an ancestor. In sacred festivals like Iri-ji, the New Yam festival, offerings are made not just to the gods, but to the Nadichie. During masquerade ceremonies, such as the Manwu, the spirits descend into flesh. Men wear carved wooden masks, their voices shift, their eyes become something else. But the village knows, in that moment, it is not the man speaking. It is the spirit. It is the ancestor, borrowing breath, dancing through drums. Westerners called it performance, but we know it is possession, a sacred visitation, a reminder that the veil is thin. Even today, despite modern religion and urban life, the memory of the Ndichi persists. Elders still pour libations. Children still dream of names they were never told. In times of crisis, families still call the Dibia, the seer, the medium, who can speak to the Alamuo and ask what has been forgotten. In Black Panther, when T'Challa knelt before his father in the ancestral plane, he wasn't just having a vision, he was enacting an Igbo truth. The dead still speak, the dead still care, and they are not dead at all. They are the roots of the tree, the breath of the wind, the memory in your bones. So the question is not whether the ancestral plane is real. The question is, are you still listening? Because in the Igbo worldview, you are never alone. Not even now. The ancestors are watching. And if you remember their names, speak their stories, and honor their path, they will walk beside you forever.
In Yoruba thought, the spirit never truly dies. It returns. It walks the bridge between Orun and Aye, between heaven and earth, memory and motion. For the Yoruba, life is not a single line, but a sacred circle, spiraling through time, ritual, and soul. And at the center of that spiral stands the concept of Orun Rere, the place of the righteous, the radiant realm of the honored dead. Orun Rere is not a vague heaven. It is not pearly gates or floating clouds. It is home, the true home of the spirit, where those who lived well, died rightly, and were honored through right, now dwell in peace. It is a realm of light and presence, where ancestors are not passive. They are awake, alert, listening, working still, but no longer burdened by the weight of the world.
Here, the Egungun, ancestral spirits, move in power. They are not distant memories. They are forces of justice, healing, and intercession. During the Egungun festivals, masked figures swirl through a village streets, covered in rich cloth and cowries, speaking in voices not their own. The people watch in awe, for they know, beneath that fabric, it is not just man, it is spirit. The dead have returned for a moment, to bless, to warn, to remind. And in Yoruba cosmology, the journey of the soul is deeply personal. Every being is born with an ori, a divine inner head, a spiritual compass, a piece of the Creator's breath planted deep within the self. Ori is destiny. It is identity before birth, power before form. It is consulted in rituals. It is praised in songs. And when it is forgotten, life loses its path. That's why the Yoruba say, Ori la babo akibo orisa. We worship the Ori before the Orisha, for even the gods respect destiny. And what of Egbe Orun, the spirit companions of heaven? Ah, this is where the mystery deepens. The Yoruba believe that each soul, before descending to earth, belongs to a celestial family, a society of spirits known as Egbe.
They are your friends, your guides, your community in Orun. And when life on earth becomes unbearable, when one feels deeply alone, it is often because their Egbe Orun has been forgotten. In sacred rituals, offerings are made to reconnect with them. Drums are beaten, names are spoken, the veil parts just enough for the spirit to remember where it came from. In Black Panther, when T'Challa meets his father beneath the glowing sky, he is not just seeing a ghost, he is meeting his Egungun, his Egbe, his ancestors in Orun Riri. He kneels, not to worship, but to listen, to receive. The wisdom offered by the Father is not mere advice. It is a reclamation of destiny. Just as Ori must be honored before action, T'Challa must remember who he is before he can rule. Even the heart-shaped herb carries echoes of Yoruba practice. In Yoruba tradition, sacred herbs and roots are gateways. They do not only heal the body, they awaken the spirit. The Babalawo, or priest, knows which plants open the channels between Orun and Ai. He chants, he calls, he prepares the Ifa divination tools. Then the spirit comes forward. Possession, trance, message, always in harmony with Ifa. The vast system of divine wisdom, encoded in verses, numbers, and proverbs. The memory of the cosmos, and above all, the Orisha. The Orisha are divine forces, but they too once walked the earth. Some were once ancestors. Some descended directly from Olodumare, the supreme being. They are not distant deities, they are living archetypes. Sango, the god of thunder, who was once a warrior king. Obatala, the god of wisdom and peace. Oya, the goddess of wind and change, guardian of the cemetery gates. Each Orisha walks between Orun and Aya, heaven and earth, like T'Challa walking between kingship and legacy. So when Wakanda showed us a hero bathed in purple, greeted by his father in a liminal sky, know this, the Yoruba had already seen it, not in film, in trance, in ritual, in the sacred stories passed from tongue to ear for centuries. The ancestral plane is not entertainment, it is heritage. And in Yoruba cosmology, forgetting your ancestors is more than neglect. It is spiritual disorientation. But remembering them? That is power. That is peace. That is the true return. So, we turn once more to Orenrere, where the ancestors watch. They do not shout. They wait for silence, for stillness, for reverence. And when it comes, they speak. Sometimes in dreams, sometimes in illness, sometimes in joy, but always with purpose. Because in Yoruba belief, your spirit is never alone. Not before you were born, not while you breathe, and not after you cross the final threshold. To the Dagara people of Burkina Faso, Ghana, and parts of West Africa, the world is not divided, it is layered. You are not just one being, you are many selves, braided together across lifetimes, relationships, and realms. And the most sacred layer of all is the realm of the ancestors. The Dagara do not view the dead as gone. They view them as elevated. Ancestors are not merely spirits of the past. They are co-creators of the present. They are advisors in the spirit council, guardians of the clan's soul. They dwell in a dimension known as the other world, a plane that breathes beside our own, like shadow to fire. They are not trapped behind the veil. They are the veil itself, thin, shimmering, waiting. This realm is entered not by death alone, but by ritual memory. In the Dagara tradition, the funeral is not an ending, it is a birth. A soul crosses back into the spirit world, where it rejoins the council of elders, taking up the work of healing, justice, and guidance. But this return is not automatic. It must be prepared, earned, and celebrated. When someone dies, the community gathers for days, sometimes weeks. The body is wrapped in love. Songs rise from the throats of mourners. Drums awaken the ancestors. The grief is not hidden. It is shouted, danced, pounded into the earth, because grief, in Dagara cosmology, is a bridge. It creates a path for the soul to travel safely home. And then comes the fire. In sacred rituals, the shrine of the ancestors is lit, not just with flame, but with intention. Prayers are spoken in tongue older than writing. Sacrifices are offered, not for appeasement, but for connection. The fire crackles and suddenly the air changes. Those who know how to listen feel it. The ancestors arrive, not in form, but in presence. Cold wind, strange heat, the feeling of being watched, not with fear, but with eternal eyes. To the Dagara, the ancestor is the highest form of human evolution, not because they are perfect, but because they are complete. They've walked the journey of earth. They've passed through trials, betrayals, joy, death. And now, from the other world, they can see clearly what we on earth cannot. That is why, when guidance is needed, the Dagara consult the Contemplé, little spirit beings who whisper messages from the ancestors. The Contemplé do not lie. They do not flatter. They carry truth like a torch. Only trained diviners can hear them clearly, but when they speak, the entire village listens. Just like in Black Panther, where T'Challa stands beneath the glowing tree and hears the hard truth of his father's choices, the Dagara teach that ancestors do not exist to comfort, they exist to guide, even when it hurts. They will tell you if you've gone off course. They will show you the consequences of a broken oath. They do not judge in anger, but with ancestral memory, wisdom steeped in centuries of lived experience. The Dagara also speak of soul contracts, agreements made in the other world before birth. In these contracts, we chose our families, our struggles, even our wounds. We chose them not out of pain, but for growth, to become something, to heal something. And when we forget these contracts, when we fall into despair, it is the ancestors who come to remind us. And so, like in Wakanda's ancestral plane, where T'Challa asks, "Why did you abandon the child?" the Dagara remind us that truth lives beyond the grave, that healing requires confrontation, and that the ancestors, though loving, are not passive. They expect us to grow, to act, to carry the lineage forward with honor. Among the Dagara, the term "go to the ancestors" is not simply poetic, it is literal. In ritual trance, certain initiates can cross the threshold, speaking with the dead, receiving messages, even bringing back lost parts of a person's soul. This is called soul retrieval, because sometimes trauma causes part of us to fragment, to flee, and it is the work of the ancestors to restore us, to call us back to wholeness. In a world that often tells us we are alone, broken, or abandoned, the Dagara say, "You are never alone. Your ancestors are with you. You are the prayer of those who came before." So when we watched Black Panther and felt the ache in our chest, the tears behind our eyes, it was not just fiction, it was recognition. The Dagara spirit world had come alive on screen, cloaked in purple and wind, reminding us that behind every breath is a voice older than time. You are not just your name. You are a continuation of many names, and your spirit, like theirs, will never die. It will simply return, wiser, deeper, ready to guide the next. They came with crosses and flags, with guns in one hand and Bibles in the other. They called our sacred groves dark forests, our shrines fetish, our ancestors demons. The ancestral plane, the heart of African spirituality, was among the first things targeted for destruction, because those who could speak with the dead could never be fully conquered by the living. Colonizers did not only steal land, they severed the line between generations. They declared that only one heaven existed, and it was theirs, that only one God had power, and he had no mother, no drum, no ancestors, and in doing so they began to dismantle what made African cosmology whole, its memory. In church sermons, ancestral altars were denounced as witchcraft, sacred dances were banned. The Egungun, the Manwu, the Contemplé, all labeled devils. The spirits who guided, corrected, and healed were cast into shadow. Children were beaten for speaking to their dead grandmothers. Elders were silenced, names were changed, and slowly the ancestral plane grew quiet, not because the spirits left, but because the people stopped listening. But they did not succeed, not fully. Because spirit cannot be colonized, it can only be buried, and even then, only for a time. In hidden corners of the continent, in the forests and hills, in secret chambers of homes, the rituals continued. Elders still poured libations at dawn. Women still dreamed in ancestral tongues. The people remembered. And in the diaspora, among the enslaved, broken, and scattered, the ancestors rose in other forms. In Haiti, they became the Loa. In Brazil, the Orishas. In Cuba, Santeria. In New Orleans, Voodoo. The names shifted, the languages adapted, but the ancestral plane endured. Beneath Christian icons, the old spirits lived on, and in every prayer whispered in candlelight, every drumbeat in darkness, the memory burned like coals under ash. The colonization of the ancestral realm wasn't just physical, it was psychological. African people were taught to fear their own dead, to forget their own origin stories, to trade the names of their ancestors for names they could not pronounce. This was not just cultural erasure, it was spiritual war. But the ancestors fought back, not with swords, but with presence. They came in dreams. They came in illnesses no doctor could explain. They came in moments of intuition, impossible knowing, sudden bursts of strength. They reminded the chosen few, "You carry us. We are not gone. We are in your blood." And so the resistance began, not just on battlefields, but in ritual, in remembering, in calling out names, in rebuilding altars that had been burned. In Black Panther, when T'Challa's father tells him, "You're a good man with a good heart, and it's hard for a good man to be king," we hear echoes of the African dilemma under colonialism. How do you remain rooted in your truth when the world punishes you for remembering? How do you lead, speak, and love with power when your own heritage has been rewritten as sin? The answer is found in the very existence of the ancestral plane. It never left. It simply waited for us to return. Today, a new generation is rising. They are searching for what was lost. They are asking their elders, praying at altars, relearning sacred languages, remaking the bridge between Arun and Aye, between Alamuo and Earth, between the spirit world and a digital world. And that is why this story matters. Because when you remember the ancestral plane, you remember that you are not alone, that the colonizers may have mapped the land, but they never mapped the soul, that your roots go deeper than slavery, than war, than poverty. They go back to sky gods and water spirits, to earth mothers and fire priests, to elders who walked with lightning in their hands and wisdom in their bones. The colonizers feared the ancestral plane because it empowers the living. It teaches that your worth is not given by rulers or institutions, but inherited from your bloodline, your story, your connection to the infinite. And so, we return, not to recreate the past, but to revive its spirit, to reclaim the names, to rebuild the bridges, to remind ourselves and the world that our ancestors are not dead. They are watching, in the rustle of trees, in the crackle of fire, in every child who dreams in symbols they do not yet understand. It began softly, a whisper, a rhythm, a name spoken in the dark. But now it's a movement. The ancestral plane is returning, not as myth, not as metaphor, but as memory rising in new forms. Across the globe, a new generation of Africans and diasporic souls are resurrecting the sacred past through film, music, poetry, protest, and prayer. They are not just creators, they are mediums, and what they channel is ancient, urgent, and unstoppable. When Black Panther hit the screen, it wasn't just a movie, it was a mirror. The glowing trees of the ancestral plane reminded us of things we thought we'd forgotten. The royal robes, the panther mask, the celestial sky. It struck something deep, not just pride, recognition. Children saw ancestors not as ghosts, but as guardians. Adults wept, not for the fantasy, but for the truth beneath it. The film cracked something open. It showed that African spirituality is not chaos. It is not darkness. It is beauty, order, wisdom, and legacy. It reminded the world that Africa is not without gods, that we never needed permission to be divine, and that spirit did not end with the credits. In music, the ancestral plane is drumming again. Artists like Burna Boy, Wizkid, Thames, Rema, and Beyoncé in Black is King are lacing their art with Ariki, ancestral chants, Yoruba symbolism, and sacred geometry. Their songs are not just entertainment, they are incantations. Every beat is a heartbeat of the continent calling its children home. In Ghana, Year of Return wasn't just a tourism campaign. It was a spiritual awakening. Descendants of the enslaved returned to the very shores their ancestors were stolen from, and wept, danced, prayed. Some poured libations, some fasted, some dreamed. And in that return, the ancestral plane opened, just a crack, and the wind that passed through it changed them forever. In South Africa, the revival of ancestral veneration is rising. Young people are turning to Isangoma, traditional healers, not out of desperation but out of calling. They are dreaming of bones, hearing voices, seeing signs. They are being called to the cloth, to the drum, to the fire. Even in the face of modernity, they kneel before altars and say, "I accept the gift. I will carry the power." In the Caribbean and the Americas, Afro-spirituality is rising. People once shamed for being witches are now reclaiming the sacred. From Haitian voodoo to Cuban Santeria, from Brazilian candomblé to Gullah rootwork, the spirits are walking again. They were never dead, just waiting. And now they are dancing on TikTok, whispering through podcasts, roaring in poems. In Nigeria, the younger generation is remembering, not just through rituals but through cinema, art, and scholarship. Documentaries now explore Ifa. Novels retell the stories of Sango and Osun. Festivals once seen as taboo are now reborn as spiritual culture. The shame is lifting, the power is returning. Even the fashion speaks. Robes once mocked as backward now walk the runways. Cowries, once dismissed as primitive, now adorn necklaces with pride. Tribal markings, once erased, are now tattooed with reverence. The body becomes a canvas for memory, a shrine in motion. The return is not perfect. There are battles, misunderstandings, commercialization, but still, it is happening. The ancestors are not waiting for perfection. They are waiting for sincerity, and they are coming to those who listen. You see, the ancestral plane doesn't require you to be a priest, only that you be honest, that you ask, that you remember, that you sit in silence sometimes and say, "I don't know your names, but I know you are there. Speak, guide me, I'm listening." That's where it begins. And once you listen, everything changes. You begin to see the world differently. Dreams carry messages. The wind feels familiar. Old songs sound like prophecy, and your life begins to make sense. Not because it's easy, but because it's connected. That is what the modern return is about. Not just ritual, but reconnection. Not just tradition, but transformation. Not just honoring the past, but letting it breathe through the present. In Black Panther, T'Challa says, "I am not ready to be without you." And the father replies, "A man who has not prepared his children for his death has failed as a father." That moment wasn't about grief, it was about legacy. And this generation, we are preparing. We are remembering. We are returning. Breathe. Let the silence settle in your bones. You have walked far, from the glowing branches of Wakanda's ancestral plain to the firelit shrines of Africa's hidden worlds. But this journey was never just a video. It was a return, a remembering, a calling home. They were never just stories. They were never just gods. They were your ancestors, calling to you across time, wrapped in the silence of forgotten names and the echo of sacred drums. So listen again. You are not alone. You were never alone. Before you were born, there were voices that sang your name. Before your first breath, there were feet that danced your path. Before you could walk, there were altars built for your protection. You are not the beginning. You are the continuation. The ancestral plane is not fiction. It is a flame, and it still burns. It burns in the woman who lights a candle and speaks to her grandmother in the night. It burns in the boy who dreams of a lion and wakes with purpose. It burns in the elder who prays over food, in the dancer who loses herself to rhythm, in the artist who paints symbols they do not yet understand. You are the altar. You are the offering. You are the answered prayer. And now, what will you do with what you've remembered? Will you call their names? Will you pour the water? Will you light the fire? You don't need a temple. You don't need perfect knowledge. You need only intention. Speak aloud. To the ancestors I know and the ones I've forgotten, walk with me. That is enough to open the gate. That is enough to begin. Because when you begin remembering, the world changes. Colors deepen. Time slows. Dreams sharpen. And your life, once fragmented, begins to form a pattern, woven with the threads of those who came before you. You are not just a body moving through time. You are a story unfolding. You are a voice rising. You are an altar waking up. So let this video not end here. Let it continue in you. Talk to your elders. Light your candle. Write down the names. Reclaim the songs. Dance like the gods are watching. Because they are. And if you feel nothing yet, it's okay. The ancestors are patient. They wait. Sometimes, all it takes is one tear, one whisper, one decision to remember. They will come. Not as thunder, but as knowing, as warmth in your chest, as peace after the storm, as power where you once felt shame. So to you watching, wherever you are, may your feet be guided by those who walked before. May your dreams carry the wisdom of your bloodline. May your spirit be strong, clear, and awake. May your name echo in the realms of the ancestors. If this journey moved you, don't let it end here. Like, share, and subscribe, not for numbers, but as an offering to those who walked before you. Speak their names, follow the flame, and walk with us again as we remember the divine stories the world tried to forget. This is Africa Gods, and your spirit is home now.